Hi, it's Brendan, the Technology Concierge. This is a video. What I'm doing here is re-recording a presentation I gave at NoVacancy for the benefit of those that couldn't be there. So we kicked off with a game of finish this sentence. And the question was, the COVID pandemic has been a blank. So I asked the audience to share amongst themselves, asked them to keep it to 3 words or less, and I asked them to keep it to PG, if possible. The sort of answers we got were wake up call, nightmare, time to reset. One of the best answers I've seen was from this chap, Lauren Pandleford, and he said COVID acted like a time machine and it brought 2030 to 2020. We've seen a lot of change in technology, and one of the best examples is probably the QR code. This was largely unrecognized before the pandemic. In fact, I wrote an article questioning whether QR codes could actually, transform hospitality in February 2020. I wish I could say I had a crystal ball, but so what we're now seeing, of course, is with QR codes is they are embedded into our daily lives. One of the most brilliant examples I've seen of the way companies are now using QR codes to connect with their audience or marketplace was this one. What we're looking at here are 1,500 drones that gathered in the night sky to form a QR code that was scannable from the ground. And this was all in aid to launch a new game. So I'm here to talk about contactless technology. For those of you I haven't met, quick backstory, I've spent 30 years in hospitality, 20 of those in technology, and the last 10 at Technology for Hotels, a company that helps hotels transform their business through the use of technology. The topic I was asked to talk about was contactless technology, but the first thing I want to do is reframe the conversation, because if you look in the dictionary, it says contactless means without contact. Now, there are a few things that we can do in the hospitality industry without contact. We can't remove it completely, and nor should we. We're a people industry, and that is very important. So what I'd like to do is talk about good contact versus bad contact. Now, I define good contact as contact that is safe and meaningful and on your guest's own terms. Now, it's safe because it should be as contactless as possible. It should be meaningful because it should be a genuine interaction, not a transaction, and we'll expand upon that. And it should be on the guest terms because we should be allowing them to choose how they wish to interact. So we're going to look at good contactless technology and how it can enhance the guest experience. But that brings me to my next point. The world of 2019 has gone, and we cannot use 2019 thinking in a 2022 world. A lot has changed over the last 2 years, and really we need to actually think about a revolution in our thinking rather than an evolution, which brought me to the point that Owen Harari talked about, was that in fact the light bulb or the electric light did not come about via the continuous improvement of candles. So I think we need to think about the way we do things, what our guests are looking for. I believe we all have stories that we tell ourselves about our guests that are no longer accurate. And I think one of those is that the traditional check-in at the front desk plays a key pivotal role in the hotel guest relationship, and it should remain unchanged. Our guests have changed. We need to address these assumptions, or we might find that we're just trying to make a better candle. So how have our guests changed? Well, they're much more tech savvy than they were a couple of years ago. They also have a willingness to do more for themselves. They don't want a lot of contact with staff or guests. In fact, a recent report released in June this year by Sept and Oracle, it was a global report, and it identified, or one of the things it identified, was that 73% of guests said they would like hotels to offer technology that minimizes contact with staff and other guests. As a result, guests are uncomfortable with queuing. They have an acceptance of technology. The QR code is a great example. and there's an expectation that things have gone digital. So we're going to take a look at some good contact technology. It is going to be rapid fire because I'd like to give you as much value in the time that we have together today. The first thing I wanted to talk about was what I call pre-arrival or contactless check-in. So it goes by both names. I like to call it pre-arrival because it allows the guest to complete the check-in process before they even arrive at the hotel on their own device. So what we're looking at here on the slide is probably two great examples. We have a form of bad contact, a line, a queue of people in the lobby waiting to check in at the front desk. And then we have a lady on her device, looks like she's at the airport. I would suggest she is using something like pre-arrival check-in. So she would have been sent an email or an SMS 48 hours prior to arrival, inviting her to check in. She simply opens the link and completes the check-in process. It should take less than 2 minutes. She provides photo ID, credit card details, and signs a digital registration card. This means that when she arrives at your property, she simply needs to collect a key. This reduces front desk time or front desk contact time from 5 minutes to a minute. Now, many think this is a bad thing, you know, because contact is important. We need to be high touch. I agree, high touch is important, but as I said, it's good contact that's important. So this 1 minute is actually true, meaningful connection. A key simply needs to be handed over and eye contact can be made between the receptionist and the guest because there's no check-in process, no transaction that needs to be completed. That's being done in advance. Many of these pre-arrival solutions also offer upsells. It could be something like early check-in, a room upgrade, bottle of wine with chocolate-coated strawberries. It doesn't really matter. The key thing is that the upgrades pay for the cost of the solution many times over. As an extra bonus, we have labour savings. So a pre-arrival check-in solution has been shown to reduce front desk workload by up to 50%. So pre-arrival check-in is a great example of good contact. It's also generally quite efficient or easy to install and cost-effective. These solutions are software as a service, so there's no capital expense. The most important thing is the guest does not need to download anything to take advantage of the solution. Many of the property management systems actually have pre-arrival component built into them now. We won't spend a lot of time here, but this is what we call a key dispenser. They're starting to come into play now. This allows the guest to use pre-arrival check-in simply to present to the key dispenser. Normally, they'd be issued with something like a QR code as part of that pre-arrival process. They present this to the key dispenser and they get issued a key. It's quite simple, efficient, and can be completely contactless. Kiosks, if they're used effectively, can be a form of good contact. So a kiosk is a digital touchscreen which allows the guest to complete the check-in themselves. These devices are not dissimilar to the ones I've been using at the airport for a number of years. Kiosks can certainly help from a staffing point of view. They require less staff and they can streamline the check-in process for the guest. Kiosks do normally require an investment. There is a capital cost involved. The lead time for installation is also normally a good couple of months. You've got the user interface for the kiosks. You've then got an interface to your property management system, your door locking, your payment gateway. So it can take a couple of months to implement. To make sure that it is good contact, I would always highly recommend that you have an ambassador greeting and assisting the guest rather than just leaving the guest to their own devices. I think kiosks are a good secondary solution. If somebody hasn't taken advantage of pre-arrival check-in, they can check themselves in via the kiosk. As we said, they can certainly streamline that check-in experience for the guest and they can help with staffing requirements because they require less staff. Mobile key, also known as digital key, allows the guest to unlock the door using their own smartphone. Now, this technology has been around for a number of years, and I've heard many describe it almost as the holy grail. You know, once we have keyless entry or once we have mobile key, then guests will be able to check in on their own phone. They'll get the key sent to the phone. They'll bypass reception. We won't even need a reception desk. You know, all our problems will be solved. I don't think that's the case. I've said before that, you know, we are a people industry. We need to offer the guest choice. And I think, you know, this personal touch will always be important to our industry. And the front desk may change its form, but something will always be there. There will always be a need for that personal touch. As I said, mobile key is not new. It's a technology we've been playing with now for at least 10 years. I think it was over 10 years ago Marriott first introduced it, but we're not quite there yet. Up until now, we've been working with a technology called Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE for short. As of December last year, Hyatt and Apple started trialing a new technology called Near Field Communication, or NFC. We are at the moment what I call a VHS versus Betamax. We need to, you know, work out which technology is going to win. The limitation with the current BLE technology is that the guest does need to download an app to their phone to take advantage of that. Now, that has meant that take-up rates globally have been quite low, single digit, somewhere between 5 and 8% generally. With NFC, the need to download an app disappears. The key will actually be downloaded into your Apple Wallet. So these trials that Hyatt and Apple are doing are certainly a step in the right direction, but there are two issues that still need to be addressed. One of them is, how do we cater for Android users? So that's roughly 50% of the market. We only have a solution for Apple right now. The other question is, what will the business model be? Apple will certainly charge the hotel to have that key downloaded in the wallet. They do now with airlines and boarding passes, but it's just, how will that be done? Will it be per reservation, per door opening? We're yet to see. As a result of all of these questions that are yet unanswered, I think we're a couple of years away from truly seeing mobile key come into play. I do believe it's a good long-term solution, particularly for corporate guests. They stay with you regularly. They're generally time poor. They would love to be able to check in on the device, get the key, and bypass reception. Digital compendiums and food ordering is something that guests are starting to expect. So a digital compendium can contain all of the information that your previous, you know, leather-bound printed compendium contained, plus much more. They are graphical in nature. They can contain images, videos, links to websites, but most importantly, they are extremely easy for you to update. Many of these solutions also include room service. Once again, it's graphical with enticing images, which makes it more appealing to the guest. But these solutions are also very easy for the property to update. So if you sell out of something, you can quickly disable that and the guest won't even see it. If you've got an excess of something, your chef can quickly add a special. Really simple. We've also found that the average check or the average spend per guest increases when you use a digital solution for a couple of reasons, but let's just use an example. If you've got a hamburger on the menu, you can offer you know, bacon, avocado, Swiss cheese, you know, maybe curly fries rather than standard fries, all as upgrades, you know, with a slight cost attached. You can recommend a beer or a wine to go with that hamburger. From the guest point of view, it's easy and stress-free ordering. And it's also upsells without pressure. They don't feel that they're being pressured into anything. And what we see is that the average spend per guest on a room service order goes up anywhere from 15 to 30%. Now, when a guest accesses these solutions, they're generally scanning a QR code, and that QR code is opening a website on the guest's device. That website looks and behaves like an application, but they have not had to download it. So it's what we call a progressive web app. Now, the theory is, and I believe it, that we are apped out, and they've actually even created a term around it. It's called app fatigue. So if you're staying, if your guest is staying, you know, with you just on a Saturday night or whatever, they really don't want to download an app just to order room service. The other question that often gets gets asked is, do we allow the guest to use their own device or do we put a tablet in the room? It's really up to the property. Some luxury properties are still putting tablets in rooms, but more and more we're seeing hotels leaning towards allowing the guest to use their own device, and for a couple of really good reasons. The first one is cost. Obviously, if the guest uses their own device, it means the hotel does not have to invest in tablets, no capital expense, and no ongoing maintenance of those tablets. They generally only last about 3 years, and there are breakages and there's obviously theft as well. The guest knows their own device, they trust their own device, and they take it with them wherever they go, on property and off property. And that's advantageous because if on property, just to give you an example, if you've got a pool and I can order food and beverage by the pool, I have my phone, you just provide a QR code, I can order really simply. Off property, I might be coming back to the hotel after a day of meetings, I'm in an Uber, I'm absolutely starving. I can pre-order the room service so that it effectively arrives back in my room when I do. We're now moving into what I call the future aspects of this contactless technology. And I want to talk about voice. And I want to preface the conversation by saying I love it. I am a self-confessed geek. I have 5 Google Homes. I got my first one in November 2016, a full year before they became available in Australia. I've got 25 devices connected. And in our house, you will hear things like, "Hey Google, add ice cream to the shopping list. Hey Google, turn off the bathroom light." However, I do not believe that we are ready for voice in hotel rooms. Sorry, it looks like Lounge 2 isn't available right now. There you go. And there are a couple of reasons I don't believe we're ready for voice. The first one is it's not mainstream. And best example is, despite the fact that Siri was launched in October 2011, and Apple has 57.25% of the market. And we did a quick survey in the room, and that worked out about right. There was about 57% of guests or 60% of guests in the room are Apple users. I asked them to keep their hand up if they used Siri on a daily basis, and the percentage of people is extremely low. The second reason is it's still unreliable, and just ask my wife. The issue is you need to learn how to work with these devices, and as the average length of stay is 1.8 nights, your guest doesn't have the time or the inclination to learn. The third reason is they are not addressing a real issue or delivering an ROI. It is much easier to allow a guest to order room service on their own device via a QR code that we talked about, rather than an in-room speaker. Even if it has a screen, it's just not as intuitive. The fourth reason, and probably one of the most important ones still, there are concerns about security. Guests do not want to feel that they're being listened to. I always say that one of the most important, or the most important consideration when looking at a technology investment is the guest experience. And the guest experience should drive the technology, not the other way around. So my advice with regards to voice is watch this space, and when it advances enough that we can address the issues covered and it will enhance the guest experience, by all means, put it in. Good contact can obviously relate to your team as well. There are now a range of communication and productivity tools. They might not be as sexy as guest-facing technology, but they can certainly increase the productivity and enhance the guest experience. Let me give you 2 practical examples from a client that's using a guest request management solution. So this was a hotel that held quarantine guests, or was a part of the quarantine program here in Sydney. The very first thing they noticed through using the system with their first wave of quarantine guests, looking at the reporting, they were constantly running up and down, delivering bottle openers to guest rooms. So in between wave of quarantine guests, they went out and they put bottle openers into each room and eliminated that guest request category completely. The second thing, as housekeeping were cleaning rooms between wave of guests, they were obviously logging any maintenance issues into the system. And via the reporting, they identified that had a faulty batch of expensive downlights. Now, they confessed, or they said quite rightly, that would not have been something we would have been able to identify if we were still using post-it notes. Robots, they've been around for a number of years now. Probably a few years ago, they were a bit of a wow factor, but I think they've been fine-tuned and can play a valuable role in hotels now. So they can act as waiters. And in fact, Sheraton Grand Hyde Park actually has one that acts as a busboy. And the Star has two in the Sovereign Room in the VIP area, one waiter that's delivering food and one that's delivering drinks. And they just do a circuit with food and drinks on board, and guests collect them. They can deliver items to rooms. That could be room service or amenities such as towels, shampoo, conditioner, all those sorts of things. They can assist housekeeping with vacuuming. And these days you can even get the robots a bartender robot that will mix drinks extremely accurately each time. And you've got robots that even cook. They can cook hamburgers, deep fry food, all of those sorts of things. I think we're going to see more and more robots being introduced into hotels, particularly with a labour shortage. However, I do not see robots being able to replace humans completely anytime soon, nor should they. As we've said a couple of times already, we are a people business, and it's the human touch which differentiates hotels. The role of the robot is to actually help human staff, freeing them up to deliver, you guessed it, good contact. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the metaverse. So what is it? It's a collective term for the current and future immersive form of the internet. And I think the key word is immersive. I heard somebody describe it fairly well the other day. They said, look, currently we are looking into the internet through windows, but soon we are going to start climbing through those windows into the internet. Now, there's a lot of talk about the metaverse, and we're not really sure, is it mainstream? Is it not mainstream? Will it be mainstream? We don't know. In all of my reading, 50% of the experts are saying it's going to be mainstream by roughly 2035, and it's a wonderful thing. It will revolutionize our lives. It is the next industrial revolution. And the other 50% say that that's hogwash. So hard to say who to believe at this point in time. Let's say it does become mainstream. How could the metaverse impact us in hotels? There are a couple of ways. The first way is in sales. The metaverse has been described as the ultimate try before you buy experience. So using the metaverse, guests could visit your hotel, go into your rooms and do tours and actually book them. So it could be a completely new sales channel for hotels. The second area is training. So augmented reality and virtual reality, where you're using the glasses, they have been used in training at organizations like NASA for many years now. And I see in the future that we could use them in hospitality for training. So just to give you an example, and it's already happening now, the Blue Mountains International Hotel School are using virtual reality to allow staff to experience guest interactions or to be trained on guest interactions via virtual reality. The last area is delivering enhanced guest experiences. So we could offer via the metaverse experiences that the guest would normally only be able to enjoy on property. Now, they could be chargeable experiences generating incremental revenue, or they could be experiences that you simply offer to your loyalty program. Probably one of the best examples I can think of is your executive chef doing a master class for your guests. So our time together has come to a close. What I've done is I've popped up my contact details on the screen. I know I'm connected with many of you on LinkedIn. I spend quite a bit of time on LinkedIn. At least twice a week, I post videos from my Technology Concierge series. This is a series designed to educate and to help you keep up to date with technology. So look out for that. I'm always open to have a chat. as well about technology to see if I can help in any way. And it's very easy to actually book a chat with me via the website. I hope I've shown in closing that the use of technology can result in good contact. Our guests have changed. They are much more tech savvy than they were a couple of years ago. And the technology to meet their needs is here. Our challenge is just to take it on. So I'd like to leave you with this quote from Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. He said that the pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. Thank you for your time today.